Hope everyone is doing great and staying safe now. And I warmly welcome you all to our second session of the Asia webinar series. Thank you for joining with us for this session. You know that in our previous session, we went through the introduction of Asia DevOps and DevOps practices. So if you have missed previous session, you can check it out in our YouTube channel, 99x YouTube channel. And we are planning to do several more session in upcoming weeks bi-weekly. Example, we are planning to conduct Asia Durable Function next week actually. So you will be able to participate with this session also. And so we are expecting you all continue with us until the last session, so that we will be you will be able to get a comparative knowledge about Azure DevOps. So if you have any question, please drop the message in the chat, and you will be able to ask in our Q&A session at the end of the session. So today's speaker is Indunil Vitana, who is working as a technical lead, associate technical lead in 99x, and he has over 10-year experience in industry, and as a full stack developer, and he has a solid knowledge about DevOps practices and DevOps Azure services. I warmly welcome to the Indunil. I will come to Indunil to continue the session.
Right. Thank you, Roshan. Welcome all for the second episode of the Asia Fundamentals series. So today we are planning to talk about Asia applications, and previously, as Roshan mentioned, in the previous episode, we talked about the Asia platform overall, and we gave an overview about the platform and what about the subscriptions and about the resources and all. So today there are so many components in Asia, but we have categorized some of them into several groups, and planning to do an overview about those and try to give some examples where you can use it in your day-to-day web-based applications. So without further more delays, we'll start. So the walkthrough will be like this. So we'll look into the Azure Management Portal a bit, and then we'll talk about the computing modules, and then data management section where we talk about the databases and also about the storage section about the in Azure, and networking and identity, and about Azure SDK, and also some of the DevOps as well. And that's all. So moving on. So Azure Management Portal is where we can manage Azure services. Users can go and register in the management portal and use create subscriptions and also use their services for their day-to-day development and deployment tasks. So Azure services can be configured in two ways, using the Azure command lines and also the graphical interface provided by Azure called Azure Management Portal. So as I said, Azure Portal is an alternative basically for the command line interface. If you are much familiar with the open source world, then you might be much into these command line interfaces. But if you like to use things easier using a graphical view, then graphical user interface, then you can use it via Azure Portal. And one main thing about the Azure Portal is that Azure Portal has the presence in all the available regions, data centers in Azure. So you won't see any problems in the availability of the software. So the software will be always available, and also it requires no downtime for maintenance, as they have hosted it in different regions and also in different all the data centers. So it has continuous availability and also no downtime for the maintenance required. So this is the main window you will see when you log into the Azure, and if you don't have an account, Azure account basically, once you register with Microsoft, and you can log into the portal.azure.com, and then you will be navigated into this one, and there you can create the subscriptions, and also you can there are several features, like for an example, they give a $200 free credit that you can play around, and also there are access benefits for the students as well. So as you can see in the bottom here, there are certain services. So we'll be looking into these services, some of these services basically in today's session. And in upcoming episodes, they will be looking into several other services deeply. So moving on to the components, the main task about today's presentation, we'll start off with the computing models. So Azure provides on-demand computing services. So if you want to perform, if you want basically to create a computer to do your general purposes, or else if you need high-end machine that you need to use to manage big data related tasks, so processing tasks, then you can create a computing module within Azure. So these modules you can create depending on your budget and depending on your need. You can do customizations within Azure. So there are several computing modules available, as for an example, virtual machines and virtual machine scale sets and containers, Kubernetes, and app services and functions. So these can be used on demand to process your data and and also to deploy your applications and use them. So moving on about the virtual machines, so these can be used as development environments and also testing environments, or if you need a personal computer, if you need to use it as a general usage machine, still you can deploy a VM in Azure and use it, RDP, and use it. So there are various types of machines that are available that you can configure, and you can log in and you can deploy softwares. You can basically manage everything without worrying about the infrastructure. So infrastructure is provided by Azure. You don't need to worry about going to the shop and buying a hard disk. You can just order a hard disk and increase your disk space. Or if you want to increase memory, if you want to increase CPU, everything can be done with a single click. But if you have the cost and if you have money to spend, if you can bear the cost, then you can always upgrade your virtual machines, and you can have dedicated machines as well. So you can do your day-to-day activities and all. So if you want to extend your services to a cloud, then you can, if you want to store your data, if you're worried that, say for an example, you have a database which stores data quickly and like daily basis, right? So if you want to increase the storage, if you have the physical server, then you need to go and increase the hard disk. So without worrying that, you can give it to Azure, and Azure can do on demand, and even you can automate the functionalities, so you don't need to worry about it. And then there are virtual machine scale sets. So scale sets can be, you can expand, you can add identical virtual machines depending on the load. So basically scale sets are used to balance the load. And with the scale sets, there is another feature coming up in Azure, which is called the availability regions. So if there are regions which are available in Azure, so you can deploy your VMs in those regions. So in case something happens to a region and they lost connectivity there, you don't need to worry because you have the exact similar uh, virtual machine available in another region. So this is an advantage if you need to provide uninterrupted services. So for an example, if you want to deploy a website which has active users who will be connecting from various regions and who will be using it 24/7, then you need to make sure that your uh, website is always available. So to do that, you need to make sure that it is in case you can use this virtual machine scale sets, as well as you can use these availability regions to make sure that your website is hosted in different locations, so that you will be providing uninterrupted connectivity to those. So depending on the load which you are receiving, you can auto scale, add or remove virtual machines manually or automatically. For an example, say you have a web server that is having a peak usage uh, within 7 to 8 p.m. right? 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. You have your site has a lot of incoming traffic, right? A lot of people are using your site during that period of time, but you don't need to deploy a high-end machine because you know that in all the other hours it will be underutilized, right? So it will be a extra cost that you need to bear. So what you can do is you can add a identical virtual machine, or even you can increase the performance in your VM based on uh, the load with virtual machine scale sets. And moving on to the next one, the containers are Kubernetes is basically, if you are familiar with the microservices architecture, you are trying to divide your software into smaller services, and you are deploying it in differently, and also these services will be interacting each other. And so what Azure provides containers to host these services differently, and also the advantages are basically you can scale as much as you want, because even if you find a problem in one of the services, then you can definitely take it off and put it offline without harming the other services. So this is another feature that if you are having microservices architecture in your solution, you can use containers for that. And as well as, even if you are not using it, even though you are not using that particular architecture, still it will be useful to use containers to deploy. And then there is app services. So if you have websites, or if you have mobile solutions or API services, then you can deploy those in Azure. And also you can apply security for your endpoints using the app services. And also there are built-in load balancing tools where it will balance the traffic in your app services, and that can be done and that can be managed using Azure. And as I said, Azure always have the high availability. If you deploy it correctly within several regions or with the scaling, then you will be able to have it always available. And then if you are a fan of serverless computing, if you don't worry about the platform where your processing is happening, then you can go for serverless computing and Azure Functions. But you need to understand that Azure Functions are not an alternative for web API, right? You can use Azure Functions for, as an example, to run scheduled tasks in your solution, or maybe sending notifications, sending background emails, or doing the backups or restoring. These can be done using Azure Functions. So without so as I told, the resource allocation is also dynamic for this, And also function, after function executes, done executing, Azure will deallocate the resource. These can be configured using Azure function. And if you are using serverless computing, if you are not worried about the platform, then you can go for Azure functions. So once you go into the portal, if you click on the compute section, you will see these services available. So out of this much of services, I have talked about few on the computing. So next up is about the data management modules. So Azure provides databases and data storage facilities to store your data depending on your need. So you can create SQL databases or NoSQL databases. And also you can have blob storages, right? If you need to store large data objects, then you can have blob storages. So depending on the requirement, users can choose wide range of services. So there are a few services available like Azure CosmoDB and Azure SQLDB databases, and MySQL and PostgreSQL databases. And as I said, for large objects such as file, blobs, files, disks, there are several other services. So Azure CosmoDB is a distributed NoSQL multi-model database which can be deployed in multi-region, and it has multiple API supports. So as you can see, native core API support is there for MongoDB, Cassandra DB, Gremlin API, and Table API. So these API supports are built in, which will enable users to access the data securely using these APIs. And it does automatic indexing, which will make sure that selection, data retrieval part will happen smoothly depending on that. And also it has SQL databases, the relational SQL databases, and which is provided as a platform as a service, right? So it also has built-in functionalities like such as backups, monitoring, and upgrades that you can do using these. And also you can store your data and you can do migrations from your local on-prem database to the cloud DB. So these tools have been already developed and can be used during this. And also, if you are a fan of open source projects, you'll be using MySQL and Postgre mostly. And if you are using that, Azure provides tools for that, as services for that as well. And it provides tools to scale up the databases, and also there are several migration tools which are available where you can transfer these data between the DBs. And the next up is about the storages. The Azure Blob Storage is one of the most popular storage where you can store any type of data in that. So it is unstructured data storage. So you can go and put anything there. And also it has it can manage simultaneous uploads. So uploads is relatively faster, and also no size cap for the content. So that means you can put anything there. But the problem is the more you store, the more you have to pay. So that also needs to be identified. So if you're using blob storage, then you need to make sure why you are using it. And you should understand that if you're using it, the cost is also coming there. And you need to do a budget and within that. And also within Azure, you have a lot of features where you can manage your budget as well. So it is another thing that will give a benefit when you are using the Azure services. So if you are planning to store data such as images, videos, or if you want to save streaming data, then you can definitely use this blob storage. And if you're talking about the file storage, if you want to store files, then you can use the Azure file storage, and this can be mounted in the VMSO cloud services as a storage service. And from there, from the VM, then you can directly access these services. And then you have the disk storage. You can choose either SSD or HDD depending on the requirement, just like a normal machine. Then you can store data persistently using those storage features. And there is another one called Azure Data Lake, which is based on basically Azure Blob Storage. And as you can see, it can store and analyze petabyte size of data, which is really huge. And also there are different access methods, and you can define different speeds as well to access these data. So these are the services. When you go to the Azure portal, when you click on the storage or the database section, you can see these services. So we picked only few from that to discuss today. And we are going to one of the important one about the networking modules. So Azure provides secured and reliable network services for the resources. So since this is we are provide Azure is providing and Azure is hosted in cloud, you need to make sure you need to apply correct network protocols and network security in place for your resources. So they provide services such as virtual networks, VPN gateways, and express route to fulfill the networking need on your applications. So in Azure virtual network, it allows you resources to communicate with each other, and also it can be open to communicate with the internet as well. And you can create routing rules where you can limit public access, and you can create private network. Then you can let only one access point which will be connected to the outside. So these can be configured using Azure Virtual Network. Then on the Azure VPN gateway, you can connect on-premises data centers to the virtual networks through site-to-site connection, and you can connect these devices, individual devices, to virtual networks with point-to-site connection, and then you can connect virtual network to other virtual networks using network connection. So these VPN gateways are available to connect different networks or devices or sites or the data centers basically to each other using the gateways. And also these are available in different bandwidth sizes. So next thing is one of the interesting feature that Azure provides, the Azure Express route. So if you don't trust the public internet, if you don't trust the public internet which to be used to access your devices, you can always use Azure Express route. So this connectivity is created through Microsoft and plus their partners. So this one is highly secured and highly reliable and also highly available because they're using high grade network connections and also high secured network connections. So if you are, say for an example, you run a company which has so much confidential information within that company, then you can always use this express route to communicate within the servers within this company. And even though they are separate, they are stored in separate geolocations. So if you go to the portal, then if you go to the networking tab, these are the places where you'd see these are the services you would see, and you can explore more on that as well. Then another interesting feature in Azure, which is called identity modules. So Azure has a feature called Azure Active Directory, which we can use to manage identities. So basically, the user management, by user, it's not just physical users, the service users, everything can be managed using when you are connecting with the resources, can be managed using this Azure Active Directory. So as told, Azure AD tokens can be used to manage these credentials, and if you provide credentials, you can get a token which can be used to access the services. So in Azure AD, it provides authentication, and also it provides single sign-on capabilities, and also you can define roles and you can define permissions to to perform the access management, and also you can register devices and also make sure that device management. So for an example, for the access management, you can if you are running a company, you can always ask if you want to connect to that company software, then you can ask those users to register their devices within AD and also get tokens when they access it. And then they have the Azure AD multi-factor authentication for that, and you can authenticate yourself using phone calls or SMS or authenticate app, or you can add your device as a trusted device. So authenticator app is widely popular right now. So once you log in, it will be sending a notification to the application. So which you will be able to authenticate, and then you will be able to access these services. So these are the services which are available in under identity section, the Active Directory and Azure AD B2C. So Azure AD B2C is based on Active Directory, which is business to customer. So as you can see, the customers will enter their credentials basically in case of a sign in, or in case of a sign up. They'll be entering their details on their device, and then it will connect with the Azure B2C, where you can either direct login, you can register a local account with username, password, or username, any other login mechanisms in Active Directory, or else you can use your link your social accounts as well. And then when you are logging in, when you enter credentials, or you will be provided an option to do the social authentication as well. So depending on that, depending on the available social media platforms that the administrators are enabling, they will be able to register with the system using this in Azure B2C. And then if you need to learn more about and also use Azure services easier, and if you want to integrate your Azure services into your project, you can use Azure development kits. So these are Azure has developed, Azure has created these collections of libraries targeting different languages, and this can be downloaded and added to your project, reference to your project. So you will be able to use Azure services easier. So these SDKs are language-oriented platforms, as I told regarding the Azure services. And currently, they have Azure SDKs created for .NET, Java, JavaScript or TypeScript, Python, Golang, C++, C, Android, and iOS. So these are easily configured, and you can use these SDKs to add Azure services to your system. Finally, one of the biggest module that is available in Azure, the DevOps module. So Azure takes care of end-to-end development to deployment, right? Once you have, for an example, if you have a requirement which needs to be developed and which needs to be deployed to a certain client, then you can handle everything using Azure. So in Azure, if you have an idea, then you can use work items in boards provided in Azure, where work item is kind of if you are familiar with Jira like a software, so you can create work items there, you can set the statuses, you can move them in the boards, and you can create epics and all, and you can make sure that those tasks will be created, and you can create dashboards out of it and get the overall status of the project, so which will be useful to the teams and also to the management as well. And you can have code, you have code repositories which are available in within Azure, where you can use your code, and you can perform the version control of your source code. And from there you can manage the branches, you can manage the releases, you can manage the tags, and everything can be done within these repositories. And then there are pipelines. So these pipelines can be built to do the builds and also to run automated tests and everything, and also get reports and generate reports and make sure the code quality is there. You can run static code analysis tasks to make sure the code quality is there, and also you can run pipelines to run sophisticated test cases in your code. To, like, for an example, if you set up these pipelines to run during the night after work, then you will be in the morning, you will be getting any issues which can be seen in your projects, in your work. And also you can use Azure DevOps to do the deployment and maintenance as well. So Azure, as I said before, will take care of end-to-end solution, end-to-end software development work. So this is the Azure DevOps section. As you can see, you have the boards, you have the repos, and within repos you have these commits, push, branches, and everything you can see. And the pipelines will configure pipelines where you can run automated testing and all. And also you can have the test plans also written in that. So everything, the software development or most of the steps that we learn can be integrated into one single software. So I have created a demo of configuring a VM. So I will be this is a pre-recorded demo since it takes some time to do the deployments and all. So I have configured from the scratch a VM for a generic purpose. So I'll be moving into that now. Okay, so this is the portal UI. Once you log into the Azure portal, and also you have a valid subscription, then you will be redirected into that. And if you don't have a valid subscription, then they will offer you to for the free subscription, or any other, you can join to any other directory. So I have a valid subscription, so I'll be redirected to this particular window, and they have uh, listed Azure services which are used commonly, and most popular Azure services as quick access. And so as per the demo, I'll be creating a virtual machine that can be accessed using a remote desktop connection, and can be used as a normal desktop for the development work or any other hosting work. So I'll be creating a virtual machine by clicking on the virtual machines, and here it will be listed all the virtual machines that are available. And from here you can select create virtual machine, which will redirect us to this assistant view, which gives which enables to create a virtual machine from the scratch. So first of all, you need to create select your subscription. For the moment, I have one subscription as pay as you go, and there can be different subscriptions based on your the company that you work or your availabilities. And then you need to create a new resource group. which is I'll be creating a VM 99x, and then you can give a name for the virtual machine. So I'll give VM01, and you can select a region here as well, depending on the region that you are willing to deploy this virtual machine. So I'll select it as Australian is for the moment, and there are availability options. So if you want to distribute your VM's availability among different availability zones, or if you need to add more VMs based on the load which your VM is working on, and if then you can select one of these options. So as availability zones, it will be distributed among all available location, most of the, I mean, selected available locations in Asia region, and also other two will increase the load, increase the VMs and scale up the VMs, so and add extra VMs, or maybe increase the performance of the VM to support the load. So for the moment, I will select as no infrastructure redundancy required, as I'm not planning to increase or do any load balancing here. And you can select a standard. I'm going to select a standard security type based on the subscription availability and everything. You will have other security types as well. And then one of the important things, which is the image, which OS this virtual machine will be running on. So they have provided a lot of available OSs and operating systems, but I'll be selecting a Windows operating system. And this is Spot instance, where it will offer unused Azure capabilities from capacity from other areas as a discounted price. You can tick it on and you will get a reduced one, but there might be a performance hit, so I'll keep it as unticked. And you can select all the sizes. As you can see, there are recommended sizes by the image publisher, and also the cost per month. So for the moment, I'll be selecting what is given as standard, and you can go and explore more sizes, and there you have seen the popularity of these VMs that have been used. And there are some filters that you can add, like types and sizes and everything. And type will show whether it is general level, general purpose, or high computing. Based on that, if you are doing some big data related processing, then you might need compute optimized. And if you're storing stuff, then you might need storage optimized likewise. So for the moment, we'll be using whatever they have suggested. So as the username, I'm going to give password. So I'll give a password. And here I will select, since I will not be using a VPN or Asia Express route, I'll be select, since I'll be creating a remote desktop connection from my public IP to the VM, I'll be selecting RDP here. And if you have a license, then you can select a license which will reduce the amount. I'll copy this. Yes. And here I have added you can select the OS type. You can select premium SSD, which for performance increasement, or standard, or the standard hard disk. So I'll create a standard hard disk, and you can select whether to be deleted with the deletion of VM, and also you can select on the encryption as well. Some will allow that based on the subscription availability. And also encryption type, I'll be keeping it as default, or else if you need to enable more encryptions using customer managed key or platform, both platform and customer managed keys, then you can select that as well. And if you need an extra disk, then you can create and attach a new disk. So here I will create a new disk which can be loaded with a snapshot, existing snapshot, or a storage blob, which can be another snapshot stored in blob storage in Azure, or else and as an empty disk, and you can change the size, which is I'll select 256 or 64 GB for the moment. And you can enable shared disk if you want, and you can select as delete disk with VM, or else if you don't delete disk, you can use those disks as attached existing disks. And in the network section, there is a new virtual network that has been created for me, but I'll be accessing this using a public IP. So I'll be creating a public IP for this as well. And also I'll give the default subnet without doing anything, and I'll use the basic security scope. If you select none, then all the ports will be exposed to the public internet. It is not recommended. And so I'll be selecting basic, and advanced you can select your own configurations. In basic, you can select inbound ports. So I'll be opening up RDP for the moment, and also if you can open HTTP and HTTPS or SSH depending on that. And you can create accelerated network for low latency, but for the moment I will remove it. And you can select a load balancing option as well. I'll be not using any load balancing for the moment. And Defender for cloud, threat protection, and boot diagnostic I'll disable. Based on your requirements, you can tick any of these. I'll select if you want to enable auto shutdown, which is recommended because otherwise it will increase the cost as the VM will be running. So you can enable auto shutdown at given time, and select the time zone as well from here. So if you think that your VM should be working from 8 to 5, then it should be shut down, because then the users need to start the VM, and no matter that they forget to shut down the VM, it will be automatically shut down at this time. So and you can enable you can not send notification before shut down to one of the emails, and also you can do some more management related stuff like OS updates and all. So here if you have custom data or user data or host data, then those can be added as scripts. So I'm not going to dig into that. And you can create a tag. So I'll create a VM tag. And these are basically to identify the resources. So it will be, identify the resources which are available in the to identify this particular resource as a tag. So you can sort them and easily find them if you have many tags, or you can leave it as it is without any tag. There's no problem in that. So there is a small validation that I have missed. Let's see. So it will validate whatever you have missed. And as you can see, this is the cost per hour. And let's see. So it will take a bit of time. And you can review whatever you have done. Everything is available here. Public IP, as you can see, standard SSD, everything you have selected. And then you can create VM, which will take some time. And you will see here a notification pops up saying that initializing the deployment of the VM, which will take some time. And let's see. So once it is done, I will show how we can do virtual machines, and the virtual machine should display here once the deployment is completed. So we'll show the connection once the deployment is completed. The deployment is succeeded. As you can see, deployment succeeded notification is being shown on the notification panel. And from here, you can directly go to the resource, or also if you refresh this feed, it should populate here as well. And you can click on this VM and go into that, which will give the details about the VM. And it has been already started. You can restart, or you can stop it, or you can delete the resource, and you can see all the details. And also you can see the public IP which we assigned, and also the sizes, the OS, and the network information, monitoring, and all other things regarding that. And let's try to connect. And there are 3 ways, but as you can remember, we only enabled RDP information. So from here, we'll download the file, which is the RDP file. And when you click on it, it will open the remote desktop connection to this computer, and it will ask for the passwords, and I will use another account. So with the username and the password would once it's successfully created, it will ask to accept the remote certificate once it has been configured. Then it will be connected. So this is the PM, and it's doing this initial start. And here you can install any of the software which are available, and you can do development work, or you can use it as a general purpose machine. So you can just and it'll initialize the service. So yeah, this is the new VM, and you can work on that. The network connection is also there, internet connection, and we'll see some of the information. So the RAM, everything that we selected will be showcased here. So that's it about the demo. Thank you. Yeah, so that's it about the today's episode. So any questions you can ask now. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dunil. Yeah, it's time to have our Q&A session. If you have any question, you can ask now. Yeah, Dunil, you have a question on the chat.
Yeah. So basically, the answer to that is so if you want to access your private network using the public IPs, public networks such as internet, then you can use a dedicated host, and through that you can be routed. As I said, for an example, if you're using express route, there's another feature like express route, right, in virtual networks. So there it is one of the private network which is using partners, and then you can connect to that as well. But if in case you have resources which are not exposed with a public IP, for an example, the VM we created, which does not have public IP, then if you need to deploy a virtual private network and then connect it through that, and you need to have another dedicated server as the host where the public IP request will be received, and from there it will be routed and connected to the actual VM. So about the cost, well, it depends. Normally, what you need to understand is first you need to understand the requirement. So if you know the requirement properly, then you will be able to identify the solution that you are going to provide. For an example, if you don't have, if your application is not computing huge amount of data, then you don't need to go for high grade, high computing capacity machines, right? You can always stay with the low grade. And another thing is, for an example, as I said during the presentation as well, there was this, if you need to identify when your resources will be utilized most, then you can make sure that in the peak time, you try to add those scale sets, and you can create more availability zones, and you can add them, right? So then the load balancing will be happen. And also you can utilize, I mean, you can use your resources as shared resources. So when there is huge incoming traffic happens to your resources, then your shared, you will be able to use other shared ones as well. So for an example, I could say if you are using this VM, for an example, if you are not, say for an example, you will be using it during the work time, right? 8 to 5 or 8 to 6. So you can define a shutdown time, say 10 p.m. Then VM will be automatically shut down at that particular time. Then you need to go and restart in the next day, but still it will be then the cost will be reduced, because Azure charges as you use the services, and they will charge for the resources even though they are idle, but still if you, when you're using more, they will charge more. So you need to make sure that you will be applying a plan to reduce the usage, and you use it only during the time that you need to use it. So yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah. There is someone asking, can we try out this Microsoft Azure as an explorer? Explorer.
Yes, as I said, if you create a new account in Azure, you will be they will be providing you credit for $200, so that you can use to learn Azure. And there are so many resources and so many videos out there in YouTube and in Microsoft Docs, where you can follow and learn. And also uh, the credits, I think you can use it for 12 months period, if I'm not mistaken. So you can use that, and always make sure, even after you using all the resources, make sure if you're not using it, then delete everything. Otherwise, you'll be charged. So you can use more once you, say for an example, you create a database server, or maybe the VM that I created for an example. When you are done playing around it, just delete the resources and make sure you tick those delete all the related components as well, like hard disk, the VPN, and sorry, virtual network, and everything likewise. So you won't be get extra charged.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you again, Indranil, for your accepting our invitation and sacrificing your time for us and sharing your knowledge with us. And guys, you guys can participate our next session about Azure durable function in next week. And also you can stay tuned with us with our social media platform, Facebook and YouTube. Yeah. Today this is the end of the session. Yeah, thank you everyone for participating, and hoping to see you in the next session. Yeah, thank you very much.